Some of the brightest minds don't look bright in the way people expect. They don't always speak the loudest. They don't always fit socially. Sometimes they even look strange, not because they're trying to be different, because their mind simply operates on a different frequency. And that's the uncomfortable truth. A genius-level mind often carries traits that get mislabeled as weird, difficult, too intense, too quiet, or even too much. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through 7 traits that frequently show up in highly intelligent, unusually perceptive people, traits that confuse others, and sometimes even make the person carrying them feel like they were born with the wrong manual for life. But pay attention, because the most important trait is not the one you think it is. And the last one, number 7, is the trait that silently predicts whether intelligence becomes a gift to you or a private prison. Let's begin. Trait number 1, you ask questions that make people uncomfortable. Not small talk questions, not the safe ones. You ask the kind of questions that crack the surface of a conversation and reveal what's underneath. You don't just ask what someone does, you wonder why they do it. You don't just accept the story, you look for the pattern behind the story. And when you do this, naturally, people can feel exposed, even if you don't mean to expose them. This is one of the most misunderstood traits of a high-level mind. It doesn't stop at the surface. A curious mind doesn't only collect facts, it collects reasons, it collects motives, it collects systems. That's why in a group, the intelligent one is often the person who suddenly says something like, "But why are we assuming that's true?" Or, "What if the opposite is true?" Or, "What are we not noticing here?" To others, it can sound like you're challenging them. But for you, it's not rebellion, it's clarity. Your mind is allergic to unquestioned assumptions. Jung would describe this as a kind of inner demand for truth, a pull toward individuation, where you are forced to see beyond what the crowd agrees on. And the crowd rarely forgives the person who doesn't worship the crowd. So if you've been called difficult, overanalytical, or argumentative, when in reality you were just trying to understand what's real, you're not broken. You might just have a mind that refuses to sleep through life. And here's the loop to hold on to. Later, when we get to trait number 5, you'll see why this questioning nature often comes with a strange kind of humor that people either love or absolutely cannot stand. Trait number 2, you need solitude the way other people need socializing. This is where people misread you the most. They think you're cold, they think you're antisocial, they think you're distant, arrogant, hard to reach. But the truth is simpler, your mind is loud, and solitude is the only place it gets quiet enough to think. Highly intelligent people often have an unusually active inner world. Even when they're sitting silently, their brain is running simulations, replaying conversations, building ideas, noticing contradictions, imagining outcomes. So when you're around people for too long, it's not that you hate them, it's that your mind becomes overloaded. Solitude becomes recovery. It's where you process, where you untangle, where your real thoughts finally rise to the surface. And yes, some of the greatest minds in history loved solitude, but this isn't about romanticizing isolation. This is about understanding a real psychological dynamic. Some minds require quiet the way lungs require oxygen. If you feel like you need to disappear after too much stimulation, it may not be a social flaw. It may be cognitive hygiene. Because a deep thinker doesn't just live in the room, they live in the invisible layer beneath the room. And that invisible layer takes energy. Trait number 3, you're either extremely sensitive or you pretend you're not. This one surprises people because they think intelligence is cold and logical. But many high-level minds are not less emotional, they're more perceptive. They notice micro-changes in tone, they feel shifts in energy, they detect when someone is saying, "I'm fine," but their eyes aren't fine. They hear what's not being said. And this sensitivity can look like anxiety, moodiness, overthinking, or even fragility. But in many cases, it's not weakness, Its bandwidth. A strong mind often takes in more information than others, and when you take in more, you feel more, you notice more, you carry more. This is why some intelligent people seem too intense. They're not intense because they want drama. They're intense because their nervous system is picking up details other people miss. And if you grew up in an environment where sensitivity wasn't safe, you may have developed the opposite trait. You appear detached, you act unbothered, you become the calm one. But inside, you feel everything, you just trained yourself to hide it. Either way, it's the same core feature, high perception. And that perception becomes a blessing when you use it to understand reality, and a curse when you use it to absorb everyone else's chaos. Trait number 4, your mind jumps between extremes, deep focus and total shutdown. This is the trait people call laziness when they don't understand it. They see you disappear into a project for hours, obsess over something, learn an entire skill in a week, become consumed by a topic, go into what feels like a trance. And then you vanish. You delay messages, you ignore calls, you stare at walls, you lose interest, you feel like you can't move. And people label it inconsistency. But there's a psychological pattern here. Many intelligent minds don't function on steady, average output. They function on cycles. Like a storm system. When a deep mind locks onto a problem, it can concentrate with enormous intensity, but that intensity burns fuel. And once the fuel is gone, the system has to reset. This shutdown isn't always depression. It isn't always procrastination. Sometimes it's the brain protecting itself from overload. It's the cost of high processing. It's like having a sports car engine. You can move fast, but you can't drive at top speed forever without overheating. And this is where self-knowledge becomes power. Because if you understand your cycles, you can design your life around them instead of judging yourself for having them. Now keep listening, because trait number 6 will explain why many brilliant people struggle with environments that others find normal. Trait number 5, you use humor in a way that feels too dark, too sharp, or too weird. This is one of the most common, genius-looking weird traits. Because intelligent humor often does two things at once. It entertains and it reveals truth. It's not just jokes, it's pattern recognition. It's connecting two ideas that no one thought to connect. It's seeing the absurdity in social rules everyone else blindly follows. And yes, sometimes it's dark. Why? Because a mind that sees deeply also sees tragedy, hypocrisy, hidden motives, and uncomfortable reality. Humor becomes a pressure valve. In Jungian language, this can be the trickster archetype, the part of the psyche that exposes illusions through laughter. The trickster doesn't always speak politely. The trickster speaks accurately. That's why some people love your humor and others get offended. They don't just hear a joke, they hear a mirror. And if you've ever noticed that you use humor when you're nervous, or when something hurts, or when life feels too heavy, this doesn't mean you're immature. It can mean your mind is trying to metabolize intensity. Humor is sometimes how a genius survives reality. Trait number 6, you get overstimulated by things other people barely notice. Noise, bright lights, crowded places, too many conversations at once, chaotic environments, constant notifications. For some people, this is nothing. For you, it feels like your brain is being dragged through a storm. This is not about being weak, this is about input. When your mind processes more details, it also processes more sensory details. Your attention doesn't automatically filter out what's irrelevant. So you may be the person who hears the hum of a light bulb, or can't focus if there's a TV on in another room, or feels drained after being in public, even if nothing bad happened. This is why many deep thinkers create rituals: headphones, silence, late-night working hours, minimalist spaces, strict boundaries, disappearing from the world to reset. Because your mind is not built for constant noise. Your mind is built for depth. And depth requires quiet. Which brings us to the trait that ties everything together, the one most people misunderstand, and the one that determines whether intelligence becomes wisdom. Trait number 7, you doubt yourself more than other people do. This one sounds backwards, but listen carefully. The loudest confidence often belongs to the person who can't see complexity. A deeper mind sees complexity everywhere, multiple angles, hidden variables, unintended consequences, how little we truly know. So when you're intelligent, you often carry a strange burden. You can see how easily you could be wrong. You replay your words, you question your choices, you think about what you should have said, you examine yourself. And people mistake that for insecurity. But in many cases, it's metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It's awareness. And awareness is heavy. This is also why some brilliant people suffer from imposter feelings, because the more you learn, the more you realize the size of what you don't know. A shallow mind feels like a king in a small room. A deep mind feels like a student in an infinite universe. So yes, you may underestimate yourself. You may delay launching your idea because it's not perfect yet. You may hesitate to speak because you can see 10 ways your words might be misunderstood. You may feel like you're behind, even while you're mentally miles ahead of the people judging you. And this is the turning point. Because this trait can either refine you into someone incredibly wise or trap you in paralysis. Here's the difference. A genius-level mind becomes a gift when you learn to trust your perception without worshipping your doubts. When you learn to say, I might be wrong, but I'm still allowed to act. When you learn to take imperfect action while staying honest enough to adjust. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's individuation. So if you recognized yourself in these traits, don't just treat it like a personality quiz. Treat it like a mirror. Ask yourself, where has your weirdness been misread? Where have you been shrinking your mind to make other people comfortable? Because the tragedy isn't having a mind that's different. The tragedy is spending your life trying to act normal when you were built for depth. Now let's lock this in with a final truth. Not everyone who has these traits is a genius, and not every genius has all these traits. Intelligence isn't one thing, and no video can diagnose a mind. But if these patterns feel familiar, if you've always felt like you were slightly out of sync with the room, this may be why. Your mind doesn't run on the same operating system. And that can be lonely. But it can also be powerful if you learn how to carry it. Before you go, I want you to do something simple. Comment which trait hit you the hardest, number 1 to 7. And if you've been called weird for the very traits that make you perceptive, creative, and deepy, write this in the comments. I'm not weird, I'm aware. If this video helped you understand yourself, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who always felt different but never knew why. Because the right knowledge doesn't just entertain you, it frees you.